Hello, my name is Daniel Daly, and welcome to the Basketball Soapbox, episode 22. I'm completely doing this off the cuff. I'm going to talk about Ime Udoka's suspension for the 2022-2023 NBA season from the Boston Celtics as their head coach. Just going to get into it. This is very difficult to talk about, especially as a Celtics fan. Just a very touchy situation that a lot of people are involved. A lot of people's lives got altered today, yesterday, the past 48 hours. And basically it all started when Woj, late Wednesday night, tweeted out that Ime Udoka had violated team rules and suspension coming on the way. And Shams an hour later, which I thought maybe he's not thinking about this way. Maybe he just wanted to get the news out. Kind of like a TMZ-ish kind of type thing where I don't really think he was thinking about the other people involved, unfortunately, but he tweeted out that it was violated team rules, but also had a consensual relationship. Now, he's probably just thinking, let me get the news out. This is the NBA news. This is not TMZ's news. This is not their world. This is our world. Let me get the news out there. And I'm not blaming him for that in that case, but I just thought of maybe just a little thinking there, because now once you, at least with Woj's tweet, you can just assume what happened. Maybe it was drugs, a crime, gambling, maybe a relationship, sexual, something happened there. Whereas you kind of, Shams' tweet kind of pinpointed to where the actual incident happened. And I understand from his standpoint, let me get the news out. Whoever shared the information to him, he's like, obviously they wanted this out. Let me put the news out. But by that, it showed the nasty world of the internet, the Twitter world, in the past 48 hours, where a lot of people were just alluding to who were women in the Celtics staff, posting their pictures, posting their positions in the organization, and really just kind of putting these people's lives out there, their private lives. They have families, they have kids and stuff like that. People are trying to figure out what their backgrounds are and all this other stuff. And that was very nasty. And unfortunately, the Celtics didn't come out in those 48 hours until today, really trying to stamp anything and saying, hey, stop speculating. These women aren't involved. Let's stop doing this. We're going to address everything in the press conference. Those 48 hours looming really opened up a nasty world where a lot of people's lives were altered and had to basically defend themselves. Marcus J. Spears had to come out and say something. Amina Smith, I think, was the only person I heard from the Celtics organization on NBC Sportsnet, really coming out and saying, hey, let's not do this. Like, these women aren't involved in this. Let's not do this. Let's wait until the press conference. Basically chastising the internet, Twitter world, and all these people really just butting in where they didn't need to, didn't have any knowledge of the situation, and really just hammered down. But I thought that was a big time for her, really stepping up and saying that. I thought that was good for her to say that for the women involved in the Celtics organization and women in general. Moving on from that, it really just hit a sore spot with everybody, because I think everybody kind of, and it's natural to want to know all that information, what's going on. We're so used to in this news cycle, Instagram, World Star, like this whole internet world that we were in. Even in me talking basketball, I want to know a lot of things. But in this case, it was like, this is too sensitive of a matter to behave like that. It's not like where everything was readily available. So assuming and jumping to all these conclusions really looked bad on the internet. But not only the internet, I thought it looked bad on the Boston Celtics in terms of not coming out and basically trying to nip everything in the bud, basically saying, hey, we're going to handle this. We're going to address this. And they did late Thursday night. And that was just difficult. And to basically go through those 48 hours as those women, that just sucks. And the Celtics obviously going to try to make steps to bridge that gap there, bridge that opening of privacy. And I don't know how they do that, but maybe if they're not involved, maybe it's a little bit easier. But a lot of people's lives got affected, which was not cool. Wick and Brad Stevens had a press conference today at 11 o'clock, basically stating privacy matters, that they couldn't go into depth what the crime was, what the allegation was, what the team rules that were broken were. All we know is that it was a consensual relationship that probably was buyer's remorse and got to a point where it wasn't acceptable or whatever he did. But the way that they were wording in the press conference, it was like, was there sexual harassment? Was there sexual assault? Well, was it that level of severity that where action needed to be taking place? And if it was that level of severity that happened, that level of action that happened with Ime Udoka and whoever this woman is, he shouldn't be the coach of the Boston Celtics. And that sucks to say because he had a lot of progress with the Celtics last year, got to the finals, won multiple Game 7s as a rookie head coach, and just has a real chemistry with the guys on here and really turned things around last season where everybody kind of wanted him gone anyway. And we're asking for his job and stuff like that. But in this matter where potential legal matters happen, the Celtics found out in July, I believe, and hired a law firm to investigate. And basically as a organization, a business, you're going to do that. You want to protect yourself for any potential backlash or in terms of lawsuits, or charges or anything like that. You just want to see what every possible avenue. So I completely understand that from the Boston Celtics perspective. Completely understand that. Just the handling of it, I think, was handled wrong a little bit there. And they're doing the best they can. They probably, I don't know if they've ever been in this situation. I know there was incidences with other players and I'm not going to get into that. That's whatever. But to basically the way they were speaking in the interview, I noticed that Weck had a little bit more of a damaging hammer towards Ime than Brad Stevens. Brad Stevens said he did a vetted background of Ime before hiring him. None of these instances happened anywhere else. Basically saying, hey, he was clean as a whistle when we brought him in here. And you can kind of see it was hurt because that was his hire. That was, in this whole term of scheme of things, that was Brad Stevens' first hire. That was his first move. That was his calling card, and he got that one right as being the GM and president of basketball operations and stuff like that. And you can see everybody was kind of hurt and it was difficult to talk through. But as I said before, if Ime Udoka did something to that level of action where sexual assault, sexual harassment, or anything like that happened, unwanted advances, whatever the case, if it was something minor, maybe he said something in passing and somebody caught air of it, and then that opened up the floodgates, then I don't think he should be suspended for a year. But if the fact that he's suspended for a year, and Stephen A. Smith said first on First Take to Woj that, hey, it's a fireable offense, whatever he did. And if it was that egregious for him, he can't be the coach of the Boston Celtics. You can't have him in limbo for a year as to see if he's going to come back. Now, I want to touch base on that a little bit later. Stephen A. Smith also asked if that was a violation of the team rules that were broke. Was that covered as sexual assault underneath team rules, and that's how the Celtics are kind of masking it, kind of protecting everybody involved that, hey, this happened, but this was underneath our team rules, and we're acting accordingly, not the league, not anybody else, not the cops, not the police, not a law enforcement or anything like that. We're making the decision on what's going on for the best party involved. With the privacy that Wick was talking at the top, maybe that's to protect the woman who was involved in this, and basically maybe she doesn't want her name out there. She doesn't want her privacy invaded, and maybe people don't know who she is yet. And maybe that's best for everybody involved. Maybe this is a way that they can basically make this go away. But in my eyes, if something that egregious happened, Ime Udoka cannot be the coach. He cannot stay away. He cannot stay away for a year and then come back under those circumstances. If something happened where maybe I don't want to say it, but maybe they got caught doing something on premises. Maybe they got caught talking in close corners or whatever the case may be. That's a different story. That's a whole different dynamic, and situation than what we all think where it went or whatever it is. It's very difficult to talk about this. It was reported that the woman came back and said, basically rose the concern of Celtics management saying, hey, he made unwanted advances towards me. And it's like, if that's harassment and whatever the case may be, whatever the level of harassment is, it gets into a safety matter. It gets into a privacy matter. It gets into a whole bunch of stuff that's extends past basketball. And that's very difficult to talk about with all the information that's not provided to us. And we're probably not going to find out unless TMZ, unfortunately, or somebody else leaks it like they did. And Wick said that he didn't know where the leaks came from. And it's like, has to be somebody in the organization to leak this, or a friend, or whatever the case may be. If it's a friend of a friend, or whatever the case may be, it came from within the organization. But it's messy, man. It's messy, and it sucks to see the progress the Celtics were making after all the turmoil of the past couple of years or whatever's going on with management and stuff like that. This is a completely different matter that derails them in terms of what they were building. And that goes on the back burner because there is a potential, I don't want to say crime because that no one's really saying that, but something messy happened. And that basketball takes a backseat in that, unfortunately, where we saw the progress of this team. So hopefully the Celtics can figure out a way to manage this and appease everyone involved, basically the woman who was affected, the women in their staff that was affected, and hopefully Ime can, I'm hoping that it's not something egregious because it's like, nobody wants that to happen. Nobody wants that to happen if we're thinking the lengths or where we're thinking where it went. But hopefully everybody involved can get to the other side of this. And the Celtics are putting Joe Mazzulla in position of interim head coach. He's had a past in college that people are talking about and digging up and stuff like that. And Steven said that basically shaped him to who he is. And he's held accountable for that. And basically that helped him shape who he is today. And that's one thing that people are probably going to raise an eyebrow at. But if you are a person who made a mistake, can you not recover from that? And that's a very difficult question to answer. Can you recover if you made a mistake? If you attack somebody, if you got drunk driving, if you did something egregious in your life or whatever the case may be, can you recover from that and get a second chance? And what are the steps to doing that? Only the people who are in judgment can answer that. You know what I mean? Like, if Ime, whatever he did in this case, can he recover down the line and be a better person or be recover from that and basically get in good graces again? I don't know. A lot of families are affected in this, and it's just like, that just brings us to a whole different conversation of mistakes and trying to make up for them and really build back trust and get everything back on the right track again. Granted, we all made mistakes in our lives, but I just don't know, in the grand scheme of things, a public eye, can Ime recover from this? Can the Celtics recover from this? And only time will tell that. But while this is kind of hush-hush for now, and we're probably not going to find out until probably maybe the end of the suspension or maybe before that. And I think the Celtics are I don't kind of agree with the Celtics here. I think they're kind of playing their hand on both sides here a little bit, and hear me out. They brought in Joe Mazzulla, who was on Steven's staff for the past, 3 years or something like that. He's been in their developmental in the G League for the Celtics and basically on the rise coming up. He was brought to the assistant coach bench last year, I believe, whatever the case may be. But putting him in this position is basically giving him a trial run to see if he can run this team. No lie. That's basically what it is. He's the best option for the Celtics at this time. They're talking about bringing in Frank Vogel to be an assistant on the bench and basically help things, whatever the case may be. But with the year-long suspension for Ime, if Joe starts struggling, is there a way that Ime comes back? Is there a way that Ime comes back at the end of the season next year where they basically said, Joe's not ready yet, put him back on the assistant bench, bring back Ime if the guys accept him, whatever the case may be. Maybe it's a way of having their cake and eating it too. But again, with all the investigation, they said this investigation wrapped up 2 days ago. If Ime did something egregious, he shouldn't be suspended. If it's that level, if he did something that egregious to break team rules and be suspended for the year, Ime accepted the suspension, they're saying, and all this other stuff. If he did all of that, what they're saying or alluding to or whatever the breakdown is, he can't be the coach of the Boston Celtics. It's going to be difficult for him to find a job if it's something that egregious to that level. Other teams will get that information too as well. The league will probably get that information as well. Pretty sure the league already has the information. But just the way the Celtics are handling this, I think they're doing a disservice to kind of a little bit everybody involved. The players a little bit. The staff. Ime Udoka. I feel like everyone's being affected by the Celtics decision. If he did something so egregious to that level to be suspended for a year and you're not committed to bringing him back for next season, why is he still on payroll? Why is he still the coach? Whatever the case. Maybe there's some legal stuff that I don't even understand, whatever the case may be. But why is he there if he did something to that level? Now, if he did something minimal, get this guy 25 games, 30 games, and let's get back rolling. That's my personal opinion. If he didn't do anything to that level, 25, 30 games, let's get back going. He's back by, nearly Christmas. Let's get things going back and wrap this up. If it was something over the top, he can't be the coach. And it's as simple as that for me. I think it's as simple as that for other people. And I think where I kind of been following Stephen A. Smith on this, where he said, if it was something to that level, if you're not going to fire him, then we don't need to know the information. And I agree with that. 100% agree with that. If he's not getting fired, if he's not getting fired or dismissed or whatever the case may be, if he's not resigning, we don't need to know the information. You're keeping him for a year. If you're keeping him, then depending on what happened, he shouldn't be suspended for a year, honestly. Maybe because it was the level of where the interference happened, the consensual relationship happened, wherever hired up people are saying it's a VP. We still don't know yet because nothing's concrete out there. But if something to that level happened, he can't be the coach. If something minimal happened and the Celtics are just covering their asses to make sure this doesn't happen again, why is he suspended for a year? Why not 25, 30 games, half the season, whatever the case may be? But I understand why I understand from a Celtics standpoint, media standpoint, suspend him for the year, make him go away. The season's about to start. Let the season pick up. No one's going to be asking this question in January. Nobody's going to be asking this question in late December, whatever the case may be, when we're 20, 25 games in. Maybe the media will allude to it, but that question will die down as the season goes on. So I understand that. But, this is just a very difficult, especially as a Celtics fan, very difficult to navigate, very difficult to understand because I'm not a legal person. And just unfortunate. Just really unfortunate.